Commence D-pad E3 dubstep opening sequence.
Whew! Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the D-Pad. I'm your host Brad Davis and you're watching a show that's all about video games. For this episode we're going to dedicate things to E3 2012. We're going to talk about E3 2012 and I'm going to give out my opinions about everything that was announced, including the press conferences themselves. What we're going to do is take a look at the big three press conferences, Microsoft's, Nintendo's, and Sony's, and talk about them, compare them in some ways, shape or forms, and just talk about overall how this year gaming looks so far. So let's get things started, and we're gonna start things off with the first press conference out of the big three, and that was Microsoft's press conference. Microsoft started things off with a demo of Halo 4, and wow, Halo 4 looks amazing. I was really interested in this game before they showed it off at E3 after hearing some news about it, and wow, this looks really amazing. It looks new, looks fresh, which is something that the Halo franchise needs, since the franchise is more than 10 years old now. And this looks, I love the overall dark vibe it gave me. Like it reminded me a lot of Metroid in a lot of ways. I like the new enemies, the way they look. They look scarier than they did previously in the other Halos, since the other Halos used enemies that were in the Halo games since the first one. So this looks fresh, it looks new. I can't wait to play it. And after they showed off Halo 4, they showed off Splinter Cell Blacklist, a new Splinter Cell game, and that looks decent. Fans of Splinter Cell, it might not like it since it seems to be more action oriented rather than it being a stealth game. But it looks kind of cool, I guess. And they also showed off some Kinect voice control stuff. Basically, like when you talk, you could attract enemies to you, and that seemed pretty neat. Seemed like a creative way to use the Kinect's voice controls for the game. So overall, it was pretty cool, and I felt it was good that Microsoft started off a press conference showing Halo 4 and Splinter Cell, two big core games. Even if Splinter Cell will probably more likely come out to other consoles. Microsoft also showed off Gears of War Judgment, the new Gears of War game, which is going to be a prequel to the first Gears of War. And they didn't show off much of it. They just kind of teased it a little bit. I was expecting some gameplay footage, or just overall more in-depth, well, not in-depth, but just more stuff, more content about the game itself. Especially since the Gears of War game got leaked out, news about it got leaked out before E3 even started, so I was expecting them to kind of branch out in terms of overall news about it, but they didn't do it that much. So overall, that game should be a big game for the Xbox 360 console, and should get good sales, and it's going to come out next year. So the Xbox 360 will have at least one major game coming out next year. Now, after that, they showed off Xbox Smart Glass. And Xbox Smart Glass, to me it looks pretty cool. It kind of took a bite out of the Wii U, in my opinion, since it's going to do some things that the Wii U does in terms of having, games on different screens. With Xbox Smart Glass, you don't have to buy a separate accessory. You could just use your smartphone or tablet, which is what a lot of people, have now, especially if they play games, if they're, into the whole gaming scene. Most people who are in the gaming scene, they already have tablets and smartphones and stuff like that. So it's good that people could use what they already have to use the Xbox Smart Glass feature. And Xbox Smart Glass, it will also, they just showed off some stuff, some basic stuff, some typical stuff that you would expect, having, drawing plays out on your tablet or smartphone, and then transferring them over onto your game on the big screen. And also, in terms of Xbox Smart Glass, I can see there being like stuff for like ESPN3, like having in-game stats on your tablet while you're watching the game on your TV screen, and having those up, always, instead of waiting for the network to show those stats on the screen. You can just pull them out with your tablet, and they will always, update. They'll update in real time. So I think that would be, pretty neat. I could see there being a lot of possibilities for Xbox Smart Glass. And speaking of ESPN3 and media apps, those type of stuff, that type of stuff, they announced partnerships with Nickelodeon and NHL and other sports, big sports names to have their content onto the Xbox 360. And while many gamers might not be interested in that stuff, I was interested in it since I really think that cable is going to be on its way out pretty soon. It's just getting, it's getting expensive for cable, and now that with the internet, you have all these ways to watch content. It's getting to the point where cable isn't even needed anymore to watch a lot of stuff that's on cable. So with this, this Xbox 360 is taking further steps for the system to become a one-stop multimedia hub. Your games or media content, your music, and it's what the Xbox. It's what Microsoft wanted the Xbox 360 to be. Back in 2005 when the Xbox 360 first released, and now 7 years later, it has come to life basically. And it's amazing when you compare how the Xbox 360 was in 2005 to how it is now. It's almost like, even though they had the same games basically, well, they do have the same games since it's the same console, but when you look at how the dashboard has changed so much since then, and just the content that you're able to get on the 360, it's almost like they're two different consoles. Since it has changed so much in such a relatively short amount of time, which is pretty cool. Microsoft also showed off Tomb Raider, which is something that they showed off at last year's E3, and they showed it off again at this year's E3, and it still looks good. I guess since they showed it off at last year's E3, I was expecting Tomb Raider to come out this year, but it's not coming out this year. It's coming out next year, in the first half of next year, and it looks good. Like I said last year, I like how they made Tomb Raider a more mature game for this current time, since the gamers that played Tomb Raider have now grown up. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if some gamers want Tomb Raider to go back to how it was before, kind of more of a light-oriented game, not so dark and mature. But I thought it looked pretty cool. Now, also at the press conference, Microsoft showed off some new Xbox Live Arcade games, and these games are pretty much new IPs. They showed off a game called Ascend, which many people are dubbing to be Microsoft's own God of War, which I understand why. And they also showed off some other stuff like Racketeer and Fur Connect. And while that might not be that great of a game, at least they showed off something for Connect that was new, and something that was different from the usual dance or music type games. So Microsoft covered a lot of bases overall. And they also showed South Park, the South Park game, and many people felt that looked good, and that it was overall similar to what how this TV show is, and that had a lot of people excited. I guess South Park fans, and it did seem like it was really similar to how the TV show is. So I could see why South Park fans who are gamers would be excited about that game coming out soon. Then came the Grammy performance. Many people were wondering who it would be, and they showed Dance Central 3, and they showed it off with Usher. And it was like, man, it was just really weird to see him at an E3 press conference, doing a performance. But it wasn't that long. It wasn't flat out, I guess terrible, but it was just something that I and many others didn't want to see at E3, at an E3 press conference. And when that was done, when that was done, they ended off their press conference with Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And while Call of Duty Black Ops 2 looks to be, at least different from previous Call of Duty games, it seems like many people are getting tired of the Call of Duty franchise overall. Since the game has been, there's been a Call of Duty game coming out every year for the past, 7-8 years now. And people are just, starting to be tired of it. It's going through fatigue, I think. Even though the game will more likely, do great in sales, it'll probably be one of the best-selling games of this year. But it seems more and more like people are just getting tired of the series. And to end off the show with Call of Duty, it was, it was okay, I guess, since again the game will be big and it will get a lot of sales. But I think it would be better if they switched Halo 4 and Call of Duty Black Ops 2, if they switched the positions, made Halo 4 the last game and Call of Duty Black Ops 2 the first game, since the peak would have risen instead of going down as the conference progressed. But overall, Microsoft, Microsoft press conference was typical. I mean, many people were really disappointed by Microsoft's press conference, and I don't know why. I mean, the Xbox 360 is an old console, and this is like basically the last year or so of this gen. And if you look at previous gaming generations, you'll see that they wrapped up the gaming generations with with sequels for popular franchises. So what Microsoft's doing here isn't anything new. They're trying to wrap up the gen for core gamers via sequels to popular core gaming franchises. They're also trying to make the Xbox 360 a option for people who aren't big gamers, and making content for them as well, since the Xbox 360 is cheaper than it was before, and it will be even cheaper once the new Xbox comes out. So what they're trying to do is trying to give support to the Xbox 360 even when the new Xbox is out, since the new Xbox will attract the core gamers, and people who aren't big into the game will want to find something that's cheaper, or a cheaper option, and that's what Microsoft's trying to do with the Xbox 360 via media streaming apps, media content, casual type games for Connect and stuff like that. So Microsoft's doing as best as it can to cater to the core gamer needs, while at the same time transforming the Xbox 360 into a system that will be attractive for casual gamers once the new Xbox is out. So, like I said, that shouldn't be surprising to anybody, but I guess some people were expecting some stuff to come out for the Xbox 360. The same amount of content for core gamers coming out this year for the Xbox 360, or next year for the Xbox 360, as how things were back when the Xbox 360 was like 2-3 years old back in 2007. I mean, that was when the gen was just reaching its, that was when the gen was just getting started basically. Now these systems are old, so it's time to wrap things up. It's time to make the transition into the next generation of consoles. So, like I said, the Microsoft press conference was typical, and due to it being typical, not that exciting, overall I'll give Microsoft's press conference a C. Alright, now let's talk about Sony's press conference. Sony showed off a game called Beyond, and that looks good. It has it looked really great. The graphics were great and everything, and that was a pretty good way to start off the press conference with that game. And then after that, they showed off PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. I think that's the name of it. It's a pretty long name for a game, but they showed that off, which is their Super Smash Brothers clone basically. And it looked like it'll be fun for people who like Super Smash Brothers. And they also showed off how the game will cross over to the Vita, the PS Vita, and how the PS3 version and how the PS Vita version will interact with each other. And they said they'll be doing that in the future with other games. So that's kind of like their Xbox Smart Glass or Wii U type of feature. And it'll be pretty neat to see where it goes from here. And speaking of the PS Vita, they didn't show that much of the PS Vita, which is surprising since the system isn't even a year old yet. It's just a couple months old, and they didn't show off that much for the PS Vita. They showed off like new bundles for the PS Vita, but they didn't show it off like completely. And I was expecting, them to show off a lot more stuff for the PS Vita, stuff to make the new system, seem fresh, instead of the PS Vita seeming like it has been out for some years now. At least that's the way that Sony treated it at the press conference. They treated the PS Vita like it was a system that came out for years now, and that like the PS Vita 2 was about to come out, but that's not coming out. PS Vita is still a brand new system, a brand new portable gaming system. So I don't get why they didn't give that much amount of time for the PS Vita. They just like basically skipped it over for the most part, outside of showing like new bundles and some new games such as Assassin's Creed, the new Assassin's Creed that's coming to the PS Vita, which looks cool. But overall, they showed a lot more. And there is some more games coming to PS Vita, like Need for Speed Most Wanted, that's coming to the Vita. And that would have been nice to show off at the press conference for the Vita, but they didn't show that off, or they didn't show off any of the other games coming out for the Vita. And that it was kind of surprising to me, and a lot of other people, especially people who own the Vita. So yeah, that was kind of weird. Something that was also kind of weird was Wonder Books. The Wonder Book was something I was expecting Sony to show something like this. Especially have we'll talk about it for such a good amount of time. It took up I think like 15 to 20 minutes of the conference, and that time talking about Wonder Books should have been used for the Vita, in my opinion. But Wonder Books itself, I mean, in I guess overall concept of it seemed cool, but like it's something I wouldn't be interested at all, and I'm pretty sure that people who are like me, are just gamers like me, they wouldn't be interested in something like that. It was also weird how they had adults demoing it, since it's something that would seem to be more fit for kids. But at the same time, I guess the reason why they used adults was because adults, I guess those adults that were demoing it, they knew how Wonder Book, how it worked. Kids, they might make mistakes, since they're young, and it might not have been, the demo itself might have been worse than the demo was already at the conference. And the demo wasn't that great. I mean, it just didn't seem all that, I guess, smooth, for lack of a better way of for me to put it. And it just didn't seem something to get that excited over, especially something to use like 15 to 20 minutes overall of the press conference to talk about. Now, outside of Wonder Book, they also showed off God of War and The Last of Us, the new God of War game, and The Last of Us. The Last of Us looks amazing. A game should be a really, really good game. And the new God of War game, which a lot of God of War fans, felt was, looked really, really good. But the thing about that is that both of those games, are coming out in 2013, the first half of 2013. They're not coming out now. And, while many gamers, think that, they feel that Sony is giving off more fresh content than Microsoft is giving to its core gamers. The thing about Sony is that the core games that they show, like the majority of them, a good portion of them, they aren't coming out this year. They're coming out next year. While everything that Microsoft showed off, or talked about, for the most part, like Halo 4 and Forza, those games are coming out this year. And that's kind of like the difference between Microsoft and Sony. During Microsoft press conference, they'll show stuff that's coming out either for the most part, they'll show off games that are coming out, this current year, the current year that they show the games. Sony, they might show stuff that's coming out, either this year, next year, or the year after. So when you put both conferences side by side in terms of core exclusive content that's coming out to both consoles for this year, things are pretty much the same. They might have seemed different due to Sony showing off more core unique content for their system that's exclusive to their system. But overall, things are pretty much the same. Since a lot of the stuff that a good portion of the stuff that Sony showed was stuff that's gonna come out in 2013, while Microsoft showed stuff that's, for the most part, is gonna come out this year. The stuff that Sony showed in terms of Last of Us and God of War, those are two games that will come out around the same time that Gears of War Judgment comes out. unless there's going to be some delays, which there might be. You never know. But that will come out around the same time. So Microsoft, they have at least one game to be released around the same time that those two big games for the PlayStation 3 will be coming out. And Microsoft may also have some other big games coming out next year. You never know. They usually show off stuff that's coming out, during the year at the E3. So some more 2013 games for the Xbox 360 for the core gaming audience might come out. Might be shown at next year's E3. But also next year's E3, I'm expecting the new Xbox console to be announced. So they might not show anything else for the 360. In terms of core gaming content. You never know. But overall, Sony's press conference. To get back on Sony's press conference. Overall, it was it was typical. I felt everything that they showed I was expecting outside of PS Vita not being talked about that much and Wonder Book. But Sony's press conference had fresh content, more fresh content, even if the content is gonna not come out this year, but next year. And overall, due to them having more fresh content, their conference was better, in my opinion, than Microsoft's in terms of just things to get excited over. But it wasn't that better. Overall, both Microsoft and Sony's press conference were pretty typical. But Sony was just a little bit better since they had a little bit more fresh content. And due to that, I'll give Sony's press conference a C+. Alright, now let's talk about Nintendo. Nintendo had a lot of hype, due to the Wii U that they showed off at last year's E3 press conference. And then we're expecting the Wii U to have a lot more stuff at this year's E3. But the Wii U, it was really weird in my opinion. Overall, they showed off, a lot of stuff that's already out on console, on the 360 or PS3 consoles, or stuff that's coming out, soon to the Xbox 360 and PS3 console. And they showed off Batman Armored Edition, Batman Arkham City Armored Edition. I'm sorry, and that has some new stuff in terms of having things for the Wii U tablet and having people interact with the tablet and use that for the game. But overall, it seemed really, basically the same to what we already played months ago with Batman Arkham City when it came out for the PS3 and 360. And something like that. I'm not gonna buy a new $300+ system just to play that game again with the Wii U tablet. I mean, I already played it months ago. Why would I buy it again? Why would I buy it again for a new system? Now, outside of Batman, they also showed off Pikmin 3, and that looks it looks good. I'm not a big fan of Pikmin. Many people are, and I could see many people buying a Wii U to get that if they're Pikmin fans. They also showed off new Super Mario Brothers U, and I mean it looks for like a new major console. I was expecting like a Mario game, like a 3D Mario game. The new Super Mario Brothers U game is in line with what the 3DS is getting, or the DS is getting. Basically, what the portable Nintendo consoles are getting. And when you think about like a new Nintendo console, a new home console, you think of like a brand new Mario game that adds in a lot of new features, a lot of new levels, like creative levels, just something that's like mind-blowing. Like the Super Nintendo had Super Mario World, Nintendo 64 had Super Mario 64, but the Wii U is just getting basically like a port of a DS game to the Wii U. And while it looks like it will be fun, it's I don't think it's something that a lot of people will be buying a Wii U for, or at least getting excited about the Wii U for. I think more people would have been excited about a new 3D Mario game that uses just current gen graphics. Since there still hasn't been a Mario game to use high definition graphics yet for consoles. And I think that if people saw a 3D Mario that did that used high definition graphics, a lot of people will be excited about that, and that will be like a major thing that will make people get a Wii U. but they didn't show it off. They showed off something that we're used to now, since the first new Super Mario Brothers game came out, I think about maybe 4 or 5 years ago for the DS, the original DS. So we're basically used to the overall gameplay of that, or at least people who are used to that series of Mario games are used to that type of gameplay, and I think they want something new and fresh. Now at the press conference, they also showed off Scribblenauts Unlimited, and that makes a perfect sense to transfer over to the Wii U. Start off as a DS game and transferring over to Wii U, since we got a tablet and the screen, 2 screens. That it makes perfect sense. It was like one of the best fits for the Wii U that they showed, in my opinion, and it looks to be good. I'm not that big of a Scribblenauts fan, but I enjoy the game. And also at the same time though, Scribblenauts for like iPhone or the iPad, people can buy that game for like about like $1 or $2. So I think that if the Wii U version of Scribblenauts, if it's like something like $30, $40, $50, it'll be interesting to see how it will do, since people could buy which is basically the same game for their iPhones or iPads for just $1, basically like pocket change. But the Wii U version should have some new stuff, and maybe people will find new content come to the Wii U version of the game to be worth its higher price. That is, if it is a much higher price, like something along the lines of other retail games, $50, $60 price point. Now they also saw a game called Zombie U, and that game had great praise from people who played it at E3 or looked at it at E3, and as well as people who were watching the conference at home. People felt that looked pretty neat. And outside of Zombie U, they showed off some more games like Mass Effect 3, which is coming to the Wii U, and Tekken Tag Tournament 2, which is coming to the Wii U. And again, those games are already coming out or have already been out for the 360 and PS3. So showing those games off for the Wii U would only attract people who only own a Wii. And most of the people I know that only own Wii are people who aren't that big gamers that want to be and they want to be interested in games such as Tekken Tag Tournament 2 or Mass Effect 3. So again, it's like, why are you showing all these, games that have already been out for other systems if you're trying to make people buy a new system that will more likely be like $300 or something like that? Like, to be honest, it just doesn't make that much sense to me to show off all these games that are already out. And with that, and with other things that they showed, and they also wrapped it up with Nintendo Land, which looks to be, which is all like the Wii Sports type games, all rolled into one, like those type of games like Wii Sports, Wii Resorts, all put into like one major game. And some of the stuff that they showed there, remind me of stuff that was already done on older consoles. Like they showed off this Luigi's Mansion game, and it reminded me of what was done on the GameCube with the Pac-Man. How people had on their Game Boy Advances, they were able to play like Ghosts, and they were able to hook in their Game Boy Advance to the GameCube, as the person playing on the GameCube was Pac-Man. It looked pretty similar to that, and they showed off the demo to it. It was a pretty long demo. They made it seem more complicated than it probably is, to be honest. And it was just something that I wouldn't buy a $300+ console for, something like that. So overall, it seems like Nintendo doesn't know how to market the Wii U. They're trying to make it seem as if it's something that core gamers will be interested in. But the Wii U, it seems like it'll already be outdated once the new Xbox and new PS4, the PS4 comes out. And at the same time, casual gamers, it seems like they will be confused, since there's like so many controllers and so many ways to input for the Wii U. I mean, you got a tablet controller, you have the Pro controller, which looks a lot like the 360 controller, and you have the basic Wii remote that you could use, and the nunchuck. There's just so many ways to play games on the Wii U that I think a lot of casual gamers will be confused over what controllers they have to buy and what controllers to use. What controllers work with the games. What games work with the controllers that they buy. So it overall is just really confusing, and I was expecting Nintendo to show off, some major stuff that made people want to buy Wii U, but it didn't. They didn't. They basically showed stuff that had similar counterparts to either what's already on the PS3 or the 360, or stuff that's already on the Wii, or even in terms of Super Mario Brothers Wii U, stuff that's already on the portable gaming consoles by Nintendo. So overall, it was just really, really disappointing in my opinion, and many other people felt like it was disappointing. It just seemed like Nintendo's in kind of like a identity crisis in terms of the Wii U. Like they don't know what to do with it or how to market it. And I was also surprised that they didn't announce a release date or state a price. And while I'm expecting, they did state that it's going to come out during the holiday. I was expecting like an exact date. And I can see it coming out like in November, somewhere around there. But in terms of the price, since they're so quiet about the price, I think that the Wii U might be an expensive console. I talked about this in the previous episode of D-Pad. It might be close to 400 or even more than 400. You never know. And I think the reason why they're so quiet about it is because whatever they price the Wii U, I think they know that that price will not be acceptable by many gamers. Since many gamers right now they're viewing the Wii U as something that shouldn't be anything more than $300. And if the Wii U is more than $300, that's something that will make that's something that Nintendo doesn't want to tell people. So I think what Nintendo's trying to do is trying to do as much as they can before the Wii U releases to show people to at least try to change the opinions of people to make them think that the Wii U is a system that's worthy of being more than $300. And I think they're going to try to do that as much as they can before the Wii U releases. But to be honest, I can't see that happening at all. So I think Nintendo just needs to state the price, just make people anticipate how much the Wii U is going to be so they could save up their money if they want one, and stop, just playing around, basically. Speaking of Nintendo's portable systems, what I talked about earlier was new Mario Brothers for the Wii U. They also showed off some stuff for the 3DS. They didn't show off that much. They had their own conference for the 3DS later on during Thursday night, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Thursday night. And they showed off just stuff that we were expecting to see. They showed off Luigi's Mansion, which is something that people already knew about months before E3 came out. At least it was announced months before E3. And they also showed off new Mario Brothers 2, and it's all about gold. And it seemed like it was going too overboard with the gold. It was like okay, that's kind of weird. The way that they talked so much about the gold in the game, it was like okay, and, it was just weird. But overall, it looks solid. But at the same time, it's that style of Mario Brothers is getting really old now. Since like I said before, new Mario Brothers, that series started back like 5-6 years ago for the original DS. And I think people really want some more creative looking Mario games. Whether or not they're in 2D, but just more creative looking games. That the new Mario Brothers 2 follows the same type of style that new Mario Brothers, the original one, followed, even though it looks better since it's on a new portable gaming system. But even in terms of the music sounds the same and everything else. And I think people are just ready to see something different, even if like the gameplay mechanics are still the same. Just have like a different setting, different artistic style, and people will get excited about that. So the 3DS showing, it was typical, but it was solid. At least we know that there is some good stuff coming out for the 3DS. But Nintendo's conference, it was Nintendo's conferences, I should say, they were all pretty disappointing. The 3DS, it's great to see the 3DS still getting a lot of good content, good solid content for the audience that has the 3DS. But the Wii U, it's just being treated as if it is already out, basically. Like there's like they're treating it like it's like I don't even know what to say. It's like they just don't know what to do with the Wii U, basically, or how to market it. And there's just like when you have a new system coming out, you should get people excited for it. But the Wii U, like everybody that I talked to in terms of the Wii U, like nobody is really excited about the Wii U. Nobody, is anticipating getting it, and I don't think a lot of people that I talk to will get one, months or years after it releases. And this is the first time in a long time in which I've seen people act that way for a new console, and that's not good at all. It'll be really interesting to see how the Wii U does months after it releases, and just the overall reception to it, because Nintendo, they just don't know what to do with the Wii U, and it's pretty obvious. It's showing all these games that have already been released for other consoles, and they are showing stuff that has already been released for Wii, but are just HD versions of that, or HD versions of stuff that's already been released for the portable Nintendo consoles. And due to that, that's not really exciting. People want to see some new stuff that will make them buy a $300+ system. Show like a new 3D Mario that's has a new creative art style. Show a new Zelda that's in HD. People go crazy over that. But they just showing stuff that's already been done on the Wii, but just new due to the Wii U tablet, or stuff that's already been done on the 360 or the PS3 that's quote unquote new due to the Wii U tablet controls and or features. So overall, I will give Nintendo a D+. Alright, so overall, this year's E3 wasn't that exciting. This year's E3 didn't show off that much new stuff, even though there was new stuff like Watch Dogs that looks amazing. Watch Dogs was probably like my favorite, well, at least my most, the game that I got the most excited for after seeing the trailer for. But that game may come out for next gen consoles. They've been kind of quiet about whether or not it will. But that looked great. But in terms of the big three, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, Microsoft and Sony, they had a pretty typical showing. Everything that I was expecting them to show, they showed. For their press conferences, the systems, the PS3 and the Xbox 360 are getting like really old. They're 6-7-year-old consoles now, and they're starting to make a transition to next gen, even though they're being quiet about it. But it's pretty obvious that we're getting around that time, that transition time from this gen to a new gen. And they're trying to cater to systems as much as they can for core gamers this year, but at the same time change the system so that casual gamers or people who aren't that interested into video games will buy the systems when their successors come out, since the systems will be a cheaper option more than likely. And Nintendo has a lot of work to do. The Wii U, they treated the Wii U like just something that's for everybody, but like the stuff that they showed off wasn't anything to really get excited over. So the Wii U is going to be really interesting to see how the Wii U does. I mean, it might do good. The more casual audience might really want it, especially during the holiday season. Many parents might buy one for their younger kids, but it's just going to be really interesting to see how that does. And Nintendo didn't really show off the Wii U that well at all. So overall, while Microsoft and Sony is getting ready for the new generation of gaming consoles, Nintendo, they're trying to do as much as they can to try to show off the Wii U in a light that will make people want to have it. But they're not doing a good job of it, and they're not making people get excited for the new generation of Nintendo games coming to the Wii U. Since people are already feeling like the Wii U has it's just like an old system basically, like it's already been out. And I can understand why, since everything that Nintendo showed was stuff basically that was already out for 360 or PS3, or stuff that had versions for the Wii. So Microsoft and Sony, they're getting ready. Nintendo, they have a they're gonna have a really hard time, I think, trying to sell the Wii U console to core gamers. Like I said before, they might have a easy time selling it to like moms and parents and stuff like that to make them buy it for kids. But they're gonna have a hard time selling to people who are really into games and are really looking forward to seeing what the PS4 and new Xbox would be like. So overall, this year's E3 was typical, not that exciting. Overall, I'll probably give this year's E3, I would give it a C. Alright, so that ends this episode of the D-Pad, this E3 episode of D-Pad. Hopefully you guys enjoy watching the show. I probably stumbled over some parts or repeated things, 1 to 2 or 3 times. But, hopefully you guys, still enjoy watching the show. And leave comments below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about stuff that was in the E3, whether or not you agree with what I said during this episode. I'm really interested in seeing what you guys have to say. And hopefully you guys will come back next time for another episode of D-Pad. Until then, folks, Brad Davis saying goodbye, everybody.